Fitzgerald, and Wendy Thornton has seconded. All in agreement?
Aye.
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 Do we need to take a roll call, Tricia?
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
I would do a roll call.
Yes.
So we have in agreement, Mary Masi Phelps, or your vote, aye. Can you just?
Aye.
Okay. Wendy Thornton,
Aye.
Maureen Vanu,
Aye.
Jessica Cole,
Aye.
and Mary Beth Persons is absent, and Paul Fitzgerald.
Abstain.
Okay. That being the case, Paul Fitzgerald is now chair of the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If we have a further motion for the office of secretary,
I volunteered to do it again.
all right, I'll accept the motion to nominate Wendy Thornton as secretary.
So moved.
Moved by Mary Masi Phelps, seconded
Seconded.
Bema Vanu. I'll call the roll. Mary Masi Phelps,
Aye.
Jessica Cole,
Aye.
Maureen Vanu.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, and trustee person is absent. Board member Thornton
Abstain.
abstain, and so by a vote of the trustees, Wendy Thornton is again going to serve as the secretary and record the minutes of our meetings and do all the other duties that fall to that particular position.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you all.
Welcome. Thank you, Paul.
Hey,
Thank
Hey.
you. Welcome.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yes,
Is there anything special we're supposed to read because this is an online meeting? You know, about like for the public to,
I don't think we did
Whatever.
one last time.
we didn't do it last time? Okay,
I'm not aware. They were noticed how to
okay.
come
Yep,
into the meeting. If somebody, I don't know if they have the ability to send us questions. Tricia, Chris, do you know that? If we have
It's
any,
being live streamed on Westwood Media.
right, I know that, yeah, so,
Mr. Chair,
yes, Mr.
I would suggest that you acknowledge and authorize Westwood Media Center to record the
Okay,
meeting.
okay, is there a motion to authorize Westwood Media to record the meeting of the library trustees?
So moved.
Motion.
Moved by trustee Thornton, seconded by trustee Van Au. Call the roll, Mary Masi Phelps,
Aye.
Wendy Thornton,
Aye.
Jessica Cole,
Aye.
Maureen Van Au,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye as well. The Westwood Media is hereby authorized to record and live stream the meeting. The next item on the agenda is the, let's move ahead to do approval of the minutes from,
No, you probably want Chris, don't, because he's on
Yeah,
the,
oh, okay, I didn't know whether we want to do the minutes, but we can certainly move to the phase reopening of municipal facilities. And we are fortunate to have Mr. Coleman with us. And so I will turn it over to Trish Perry and Christopher Coleman.
I'll defer to Chris.
Ball keeps on getting hit in this court, doesn't it? Yes. Well, I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak and welcome. And thank you for participating on a Friday evening at 7 p.m. So as I'm sure the trustees are aware, the Commonwealth is in a reopening phase, and many municipalities have done a variety of different things. Just as a quick summary, in Westwood, we did close our facilities to the public. However, we continue to offer services, and we continue to have a variety of different work environments. We had people who still came into the buildings and worked. We had individuals who worked remotely, and we had employees who did a little bit of both. And that seemed to work very well for a number of employees. But now as we're trying to re-enter, we put a team together that's led by Assistant Town Administrator Pam Dukeman and our Director of Human Resources, Joan Murray, on a reopening phase. And each building is going to be a little bit different because each building provides a different type of service. Specifically for the library. In this particular case, I just want to share with the trustees and just to publicly apologize to Tricia, because Tricia had a plan, even at the beginning of COVID, to have the curbside pickup. And that plan was a very well thought out plan, and Tricia and I did speak about that. And then as we start to come into the reopening phase, I just want the trustees to know I dropped the ball on this one. Tricia and her team were well ready to reopen to the curbside collection program earlier than what is being proposed. And so I just wanted to let the trustees know that this was something that fell through the cracks for me. And just to apologize to Tricia and the team who were ready, and for the community who were ready to receive these services much earlier than they will be officially. But I want to commend Tricia and her team for being ready, and the pilot program that went on this past week, and what's in your packet for what's going to come up on Monday. There's a number of things going on, but Tricia has worked with our facilities director. She's worked with our director of public health. She's worked with the co-chairs of the reopening team, and they are more than ready to go forward. So again, I just wanted to let the trustees know and apologize to Tricia and the team for dropping the ball on this particular matter.
Thank you.
It's entirely understandable, Mr. Coleman. We were all kind of trying to go day to day and address things that come up. And so, we don't take any offense at it, and we totally understand. A lot in your plate. I mean, during this emergency, we managed to have a town election and a town meeting. So
Yeah.
a lot that we've had to try to address.
Wow, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And again, Tricia, to you and your team. And I'll be speaking to them once we get in person again for everybody.
Well, thank you. They're thrilled that, they're worked hard to get here, and hopefully it'll be a smooth transition. Yeah. But thank you for your support, President.
No,
Very much appreciated.
Thank you for your patience. And the plan will continue. Like I said, the library will begin, and we'll have different buildings providing different services at different times. So we're not going to have a total reopening of all facilities at one time. It'll be more of a gradual reopening of different facilities.
And any questions for the town administrator?
I have a question.
Board Member Thornton.
I was just sort of wondering if there's been any thought given on how the next phase for the library would open, because I don't know, I was at Legacy Place last week and was able to go into stores and watch the stores count the numbers of how many people were there. And I know for other, not Westwood, but other towns, like the town that's like Walpole opening their pool, is you have to have you pick a time slot to come in, and it closes a little bit early so that the staff has time to reopen and things like that. And I was just wondering if there had been any thought on the next stage for the library.
Well, yes. Thank you for asking that question. We have thought about a lot of things regarding the next stages for all of our facilities. And right now it appears to be more by appointment for certain facilities, but this would be something that Tricia and the co-chairs of that reopening team would work out specifically. Again, this is why it's different for each facility. So there are certain facilities that may be able to have people in before other facilities. So for example, using Town Hall as an example, we're limited to the number of people we could have in because of the spacing, given the current guidelines. Yeah. But the library would be maybe a different facility that may have greater capability because of the space.
Okay, so I guess my question to both Trish and to Christopher is, at the last meeting, Trish, we had laid out, as Mr. Coleman just mentioned, how the facility itself favors us in terms of our ability to do some of this stuff. So is the plan still to use the vestibule and have people wait out there and process that we had discussed at the last meeting about monitoring and only having limited number of people in the actual library at any given time, and use the vestibule as we had talked about before?
That's the plan right now. So that's the phased curbside pickup. It's limited staff, limited overlap. I have to say that my staffing module fell apart today when I realized the amount of materials that are coming in on the weekends when we're closed. And today, Karen was off today. Her son's graduating from Mass Maritime on Sunday. So, and honestly, so I just sent out an email to my department heads and asked for them to consider sort of revamping their schedules because we need more. I need more help on a Friday than we had originally anticipated. But that's a good shakeout for everything else worked great, and we had 100+ pickups on the pilot week, which is pretty good. And we didn't even bring them into the vestibule. This was done outside on a table. We have
Right.
different time slots, and we didn't even have people actually come in the building. So I think we're in really good shape for this one. But I'm trying, there's a lot of stress with people coming back into environments and wanting to make sure that, every precaution is being taken and that people are following the rules. So we did have Lieutenant Crawford did a training on COVID precautions and safety and, what gloves can do and what they don't do and wearing masks. And I think that was good for everybody just to hear it and hear the same thing. And then we've instituted, restroom cleaning logs, and we have always had a contact log for in and out of the building now for over a month. And we're also being very adamant about, everybody's responsible for cleaning their own station and cleaning up after themselves. The refrigerators were completely emptied and sanitized today by Tom. So I think we're ready for this step, and then the next step it'll be, equally well thought out, I hope. And we are working, as Chris said, with the reopening committee. So there's a lot of pieces.
Trish and Chris, I'm interested in what's your impression of how, in general, how are staff feeling about the staged reopening at the library and also in other departments as well?
Well, I'll certainly defer to Trish regarding the library specifically, but when it comes to town hall, or when it comes to the town as a whole, in other communities, when I'm speaking to my colleagues, there's a variety of things that are happening. We have a number of employees who have children, and the childcare services are not available. We are also listening to what the governor has suggested and urged to continue with remote participation where it's applicable. So we're trying to have a balancing act, and we will have a variety of employees doing a number of different things, whether it's in person, hybrid in person, remote, or remote. And then that will be part of the next phase, and then we will continue to work that out. There are other employees or other individuals I've seen both in and outside of Westwood that have medical challenges and re-entering the workforce. They may be a little later than others. So those are a lot of the factors that we're taking into consideration.
Yep.
And we'll continue to take those factors into consideration on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
I would say that's the model we're using as well.
Yep. And at this time, are all library staff being paid for their normal hours?
Yes, regularly scheduled hours and fully compensated for those, thanks to the town.
Yep. Yeah. And do we expect that to continue past the end of this month?
The budget went through for full funding for all salary lines. So yes, I would say that the expectation is that for fiscal 21, that would be an expectation.
One thing we should probably think about when I was listening to Chris, the daycare situation, okay? We may want to think about or may want to anticipate if daycares don't fully open or have limited numbers, we may think we may have more kids if there's not daycare available outside. We know we've seen an increase in recent years on the number of kids at the library after the school hours. So we might just want to think about whether or not we might experience some of that and what we would do if we do experience that.
Well, and that might be addressed if we're doing like time slots and appointments. You sign up for an hour, so then we can tell in advance how many people are going to be in the library, and or the children's section might have to be treated slightly separately because numbers wise, being in the children's room is going to be different than maybe the adults upstairs.
There are some libraries that in their planning are carving out certain hours for seniors as well as being, if you are in one of the more protected classes and you want to have sort of added security. So there's some, that's another one of the things that's in the
Yeah.
mix, I guess.
Nice.
Just, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, certainly.
Just from a macro type level, the phased approach is really also factoring the reintroduction to employees to the workforce and working together, and also maintaining the social distancing that's required, or the guidelines that have been provided by the Commonwealth. And to the points that were raised by the trustees regarding some of the questions, is also having those employees begin to understand working together again, physically in person, as well as providing those services. So I think one of the things that is part of this phase reopening, whether it's the library and any other town facility, I think everyone needs to understand that not all the services that were offered pre-COVID will be available in the first phase or the second phase. And again, it seems to be more a staggered plan. And we're trying to make sure that we maintain the health and safety for our team members as well as our patrons.
So I take it, Trish, we can continue the increased number of electronic offerings and that
Yeah,
we've
you
done.
saw it's over 66,000 that we put into overdrive and hoopla, which is significantly more than was
Yeah.
budgeted. But you know, it's gonna, you can see the numbers on the
Yep.
You can clearly,
and,
yeah.
it's being
Yeah.
used. So
Mhm.
And are we anticipating any increased costs because of that?
no, it's a reallocation really of just the budget line. So instead of
Mhm.
physical materials, we reallocated beginning
Right.
almost immediately in March. So yeah.
Any
If I may, Mr. Chair, just one
Yes.
more comment.
Sure. Go
Just
ahead, Mr. Coleman.
just for the trustees' understanding, I think the pilot program that Tricia and her team put together this week is something that we're going to probably use as part of our reopening model going forward, because it's able to address a number of issues and gaps, but also when curbside pickup goes into effect, we still may have some modifications that we need to make. So I just want to let people know that it'll be on a daily basis that we'll be reviewing
Sure.
what's working, what's not working. We may have to make some adjustments, just so everyone understands that nothing is carved in stone. And we're just continuing to try to move forward.
Well, I think the trustee, we trust that you and Trish will address those contingencies as they come up. And we certainly give you the discretion and authority that you need to address those on a day-to-day basis.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Does that have something? Anybody else? No? Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Chris, is there anything, as trustees, when we're out in the community, if we're interacting with, other members of the municipal government, are you getting the support that you need, and how can we as trustees help the library and also the town in general continue a good, solid, safe reopening?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. And the community has been extremely supportive. And that's what makes this phase reopening such a positive plan, because the community understands. Not saying that they're not eager for certain things to reopen. They are, as well as we are. But they understand the process that we're going. I think elected and appointed officials have been tremendously supportive. And I think if we can if you can help us continue to get the word out of what's happening with the library and or other facilities, that would be the greatest thing that you could do.
Just wanted to mention
Maureen.
one thought. There's so many variables to consider in this next phase and then the following phase when people begin to re-enter the library. And just however we can support you, Tricia, with, that thinking about, for example, numbers of kids coming in, younger kids particularly being supervised by a parent, and maybe, even up into the teens, depending, or the tweens, depending on how it's going to work. Because I think what Chris said about, people having expectations about things going back to the way they were was very apt, because there may be that expectation. And it needs to be clear that it's not going to be back to the way it was, at least to start. Particularly where there are not going to be as many programs for kiddos going on. So, I think whatever support we can offer, and showing that we agree with that and that, we'll be happy to communicate that will be important for you and for your staff. As Chris said, people are going to be anxious about how it's going to work when people come back in. Yeah.
Any further questions or discussion? Ms. Coleman, do you have anything else you want to add or anything else we can?
Just thank you for your service and your support. It's been great, and we will continue to rely on your support. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah.
you.
Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you very much. You guys have a great meeting.
You're welcome to stay and, hang in, but
Right.
I got 3 knocks on the door, so I think I gotta get out.
Okay, the
Have a
next,
great night. Thank you all.
you too.
thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the June 11th, 2020 meeting. Have all the trustees have an opportunity to review them?
Yes.
Does any member have any additions, amendments, deletions?
No.
No. The chair will accept a motion to approve the minutes
Make a motion.
by
Sec-
trustee Van Owen,
Second.
seconded by
Second.
trustee Masi Phelps. Trustee Masi Phelps?
Aye.
Aye. Trustee Thornton?
Aye.
Trustee Van Owen?
Aye.
Trustee Cole?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, director's report. I know that you submitted it for the trustees. Do you just want to highlight anything, Trish, or emphasize anything in the report?
Okay. I first would like to just say thank you to all of the Westwood Public Library staff for everything that they have done since March 13th. There's some individuals that could work remotely and their workflows lent themselves to that, and they did a tremendous job, really getting videos out and learning how to do videos and all of the programming that happened. But then there's other people that honestly their workflows don't lend themselves to that, and the circulation staff has been boots on the ground since day one. Our custodial staff has just been amazing. They, the deliveries, the boxes, and the projects that have been done. And one of them, the children's program room, was entirely painted, and it looks fabulous. And I know that Matt was absolutely, everything was taped, everything was primed, and one wall, and it's a tough wall because it's a dark color. It shows everything. He got that. It looks brand new. So
Great.
really,
Does he do painting on the side?
I don't know, but he's really good at it. And our tech services staff. So this is one of those areas that they cannot work collaboratively because their desks are literally 3 feet apart and it's attached at the center. And Liz and Kathy have been coming in on bi-weekly, and we had a pretty big backlog when we started to get those shipments in when the warehouses started to open, and the tech services department did an amazing job. So kudos to them too. It's really everybody has just been a real team. We have had some staffing changes. I guess the attrition, COVID related in many cases. Not that anyone had it, but they just don't feel comfortable, or they feel that this is the right time to step down. So, in addition to Susan White, who is retiring officially again, Marie Leiden, who was a part-time reference librarian, and Jean Tedesca have also given their notice as well. Basically, they were retired from Norwood Public Library earlier, and now they are retiring again. So we are now down 2 part-time reference staff. One thing that's not in the director's report that I'd like to share with you is we had a request back in February. I was working with a young woman who was doing her Venture Summit project as a Girl Scout. And she had come to me with the idea of doing little free libraries in either Norwood or somewhere in Westwood. And we had talked about options for Westwood. And, the COVID-19 kind of, put a lot of things on the back burner, but this young woman absolutely followed through. And last week, she and her dad met me on Sunday, and they delivered a little free library with the post and everything ready to go for placement ultimately at the Islington branch when
Nice. Oh,
Nice.
her name's Amy Marsupian, and she did just, stand-up job when everything around, you had every excuse in the world if you couldn't do it. And she created 6, I believe, little libraries.
Wow.
Yeah. So kudos to Amy, and she was, what a fabulous story she has,
can we get some photos of those, Tricia? And maybe you could
Yeah.
share them in your, maybe the community newsletter or something like
Yeah.
that, or social media?
I only have the one photo of her that I took when she was delivering it, but
Right.
yeah, I can share that. Yeah.
So you said she made 6 of them?
Yeah, I believe she made 6. Most of them are in Norwood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think this is the only Westwood one. She
Yeah.
was going to do one at Bubbling Brook, but she couldn't contact anyone there, and then
Mhm.
finally it didn't work
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
But
She's a venturing scout, which is associated with the Boy Scouts of America, which is now Scouting. And her troop is located in Norwood, so that's probably why most of
Oh,
them
okay.
are in Norwood. But she
Yeah.
lives in Westwood. She graduated from
Westwood
Westwood
High.
High this year.
Oh, great. That's
So I'm
nice.
sure it's kind of similar to like an Eagle project.
Right,
It's
well-
exactly, yeah, the equivalent. Yeah.
Trustee Cole, I know you have connections with the Scouts. If anybody else would like to, would anybody else would like as an Eagle project to do some more in the town of Westwood, I'm sure the trustees
Yeah.
welcome that.
Yeah.
I've seen a growth in them since the COVID.
Yeah. I'd love to do one. Yeah.
Oh,
And I was thinking where we haven't gotten to it yet, but where we're going to be closing the pop-up library, maybe we could get this one put up before the library opens temporarily in another spot over in Islington, just as a little presence
Yeah.
for the population
good
over.
idea.
Mm.
There might be one at the school street
Oh, the playground.
park already.
Playground.
Playground, or maybe even down on Washington Street somewhere,
But I wonder if maybe the friends have any books that we could maybe fill it with. If they might be full already. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I can maybe ask Giorgio if
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
location for us. Yeah.
He would love to do that.
And if the friends don't have any, I have some books.
Oh, I do
Oh, me
too.
too. Me too. Yes.
Right, anything else? The
No,
director's
that's all.
report? In having heard you talk about how great a job that the staff did, first of all, on behalf of the trustees, we commend them for their service and what they did in the recent emergencies. And between over the past year, they've really stepped up in this, when you had to take your leave, and now in the COVID thing, and it just once again reflects the quality and commitment of the people that work for our library. And so what I'd like to do, if with the trustees' approval, is Trish, you and I work up a letter of commendation, entire staff, that we would distribute, and also frame and put up in somewhere in the library so that the public can understand what kind of people we have working for us and what they've done over the past 3 months.
Okay, I can do that.
Nice idea.
Okay, anything else for Trish on the director's report?
I left out Terry Dwayne, so superhero Terry Dwayne, he does everything. So.
Right. Well, if you think there's, we should do a letter comment for the entire staff. If you think there's any individuals who's deserve special merit, I'm happy to write a letter and so they have that as well.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the final draft community facilities, which has been reviewed by the trustees. Do you want to speak on that, Trish?
Yeah, I think Tom Beatty and the committee have gone through all of the drafts and have made it cohesive in terms of language and content and coverage. I think the next step is that they are requesting a letter of support from the trustees as an elected board that you are on that this represents sort of the direction that you are thinking that the comprehensive plan should be going, and that you're supportive of the plan.
Does anybody want to speak on that? Does anybody have any comments before? Then I will accept a motion to have the Board of Trustees provide a letter of recommendation as requested by the Facilities Planning Committee. Is there somebody prepared to make that motion?
I will.
Made by Trustee Thornton. Is there a second?
Aye.
Seconded. Any discussion? No? Okay. The roll. Trustee Masi Phelps.
Aye.
Trustee Thornton.
Aye.
Trustee Van O.
Aye.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
And the chair also votes aye. Okay. Trish, you'll work on that and have it. Do we need to see the draft? Do the board members want to see the draft, or do they want to just have Trish draft it and me take a look at it? How do you want to proceed?
Well, I'm glad to have Trish do that, and, trust you, Paul, to.
Okay. All
I
right.
agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Great. Islington Branch Library, Wentworth Hall
Yay.
update. Madam Director.
Well, so I gave you actual dates now for when the general contractor might, potentially a general contractor might be available for the completion and the initiation of the vertical construction. Right now, the foundation has been done, and it's been waterproofed up to 8 feet. And the waterproofing company is going to come back in after the foundation is backfilled. So once the backfill is done, then the foundation will be completely waterproofed all the way up to the top. And at that point, you can check off the foundation work, which has been underway since October. So that's great. We don't have a firm timeline for when completion of the new building might be scheduled, but it's looking like May or June of 2021 would be sort of the expected completion date of the Wentworth Hall new Islington Branch Library facility with Youth and Family Services and Recreation. So in the meantime, by August 31st, we will need to temporarily remove the temporary pop-up and find a place to store whatever materials we would like to take with us for reuse or repurposing in the new Wentworth Hall. I have talked to Claire a little bit. She's on vacation until July 4th, and I told her that, we would take that up when she comes back from vacation, because it was too hard to open one library and close another.
Yeah.
So we have some ideas, and I think most of it would be looking for temperature and humidity storage for any materials that need to be stored in a temperature controlled environment, as opposed to putting them into a storage unit that would be in a parking lot somewhere.
Right.
So the books and media and that kind of thing. We have already triaged the collection once, and given the space and also the time frame by which we close down the branch and when it potentially will reopen, I think we're going to be looking for that tighter, more current collection to stay, and some of the most of the boxed collection that's currently in storage would be either offered to other departments or somehow discarded or disposed of or given away. And I will work with the procurement department, Michelle Miller-Peck, on best practices and what we need to do for that to go forward. And I think Youth and Family Services is looking for temporary space, and they have 2 sites that they're looking at. One is at the American Legion Hall, the second floor, which has been offered to the town for to rent. And also, they're going to look at Giorgio Petruzziello's development, which is the old CVS basement, which had been sort of set aside for MMO, but right now is vacant. So Danielle Sutton and Nora Locknane and Jimmy McCarthy are reviewing sort of options. And underlying all of those discussions is sort of an unknown, what, if any, on-site opportunities will exist in September, October, May of next year based on, the coronavirus and where we stand in terms of on-site and interpersonal meetings. They're counseling. A lot of it is, with children, they use manipulatives and they have play activities and keeping those sanitized after, you couldn't have multiple sessions run right on top of each other. So I think there's some opportunity for virtual still to continue. And I think that they're going to be, kind of keeping that in mind when we look at pricing for, youth and family services sites. And then I guess, hopefully we'll see that old Wentworth Hall sign will be repurposed and refreshed and put up on the new one.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate any budgetary expenses that we haven't planned for in terms for storage and removal and all any of that?
I think that the storage should be part of the building contract. I know we had put into the budget the moving to the temporary pop-up, and then there was a subsequent move to the new space. So we are going to incur, or the project will incur, an additional cost because of the delay in getting the bids and the foundation done. So I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be covered by the project or if the town will look at, another funding source.
So, and you'll have to do the necessary procurement for that.
Yeah.
Just keep the trustees advised.
Yeah.
The finance, not only the procurement and the, that, but the budgetary impacts as well. Any comments on, yes?
Question. Yeah, Tricia, given the timing of it, well, first of all, can you bring us up to date on or remind us of where, speaking of the budget, where we stand in terms of furnishings for the new branch?
Yep.
And given the timing, would it make sense to be thinking about that when you prepare the capital budget request for FY22, which will be, in next year's town meeting around the time the building is expected to be complete?
At this point, the fixtures, furnishings, and equipment line is a zero balance on the construction project. So there is no funding expected or anticipated unless the bids come in much lower than estimated, in which case that line could potentially be funded. There was a capital request that potentially could have gone before town meeting for this fiscal year, but it wasn't put forward by the town did not put it forward. So that could be a request that, we would be part of a capital request for furnishings for that new building. I think the select board felt very strongly that if the building wasn't ready and being built, that we shouldn't be entertaining capital requests for an unknown entity.
Right.
And
Sure.
I totally can see that.
Yep. Understood. Yeah. So, and actually, Paul, if we're headed for a potential fall town meeting, I guess that's another, I'm just trying to think at decision points at which we should make sure we check in and see, should we be making a request?
Yeah, I think
as more becomes known.
I think that's right. There's a lot of variables the town is looking at. We don't know what the state aid number is going to come in at. I don't know what the Mass Library. I mean, we know there's going to be budget cuts at the state,
right?
Because of the revenue shortfalls that they're experiencing and will continue to experience. So I know that, but I think I agree with you that we should be part of that process.
Yeah.
To the extent that there is like any kind of capital request or any kind of supplemental budgets, we're
Yeah.
starting on top of that. But I think it's a lot of it is wait and see.
Yeah.
Financially, I mean, as you know, at the town meeting, we were only able to do the bare minimum of the
Financially.
articles. And the town is trying to keep the rainy day fund as they can and anticipating when we get the cherry sheets on state aid.
But to your point, Mary, yes, we should make sure that
Yep.
decision points
Yeah.
are,
Right.
And I think just asking questions or, making some inquiries also continues to show our support as a board for the project. That,
Right.
we're keeping tabs on how it's going forward, basically.
Mm.
Any further questions or comments regarding the Islington branch? And Trish, if you need any approvals for contracts or anything like that, certainly we could call a trustees meeting
Okay.
for anything like that, subject to the call of the chair. Okay.
One question
Next up.
that you
Yes.
made me think of one question, Paul. Trish, that
Yes.
in terms of the pop-up moving, will you have the support that you had when you made the move from Wentworth to the ICC in terms of the materials and the moving, and they'll come in and take care of it?
it depends entirely on what the options are. So if the Youth and Family Services were to take the space at the Veterans American Legion,
Yep.
there's only 2,000 square feet there. So that would not provide an opportunity for any additional storage space for other items. So in addition to the library, it's also the recreation department has materials, as does Youth and Family Services. If the other space, it's a larger 5,000 square foot option, so that could provide potentially storage area that's just adjacent, and in which case the facilities manager, Jim McCarthy, would take the lead on moving.
Good.
So it, and there may be, a sort of a kind of a combination of those things where maybe some materials go there or go somewhere and some go to a pod that goes into a climate controlled environment. So,
Okay.
but
Thank you.
yes, we are, I don't think that Sterling Movers will be doing what they did before, because really a lot of that collection is not going to be going to the new space at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments on Islington? All right, next item on the agenda is the 21st Century Fund update.
Sure.
Mary?
Yep. Thanks, Paul. Sure. So the 21st Century Fund has not met during the pandemic. And to remind everybody of where we are, our two community representatives are both looking to step down. They have kindly agreed to, kind of stay on a little bit longer till we get through, till where we could have another meeting and try to recruit replacements. And I'll give you an update on that in a minute. So we're in a bit of flux that way in terms of stewardship of the fund. Some good news is that the June 30th tax deadline was uneventful. We were able to make our appropriate number using the calculation that I won't attempt to understand that Mary Beth Persons has researched with the IRS, so that we're in the clear at this point in terms of necessary fundraising. So we're in good shape that way. Also, I just learned right before the meeting that it appears that we have recruited one replacement who could handle managing the investments. A gentleman name of well, actually, I won't use his name because it hasn't been presented to the directors of the fund yet. But it appears that we will be able to. Yeah. So what I'm planning to do is call a meeting of the fund. I'm going to, and Paul and I have discussed this, and Trish and I have discussed this a little bit, and I wanted to, apprise the trustees of the plan here, because of the at least one of the directors of the fund is not really in a good position to be able to participate online in a video meeting. So given that we are able to have small numbers of people in the library with the appropriate arrangements, Tricia and I have talked about arranging a hybrid meeting for the fund where this particular director and myself and Tricia, maybe one other director, could be in the library in appropriately distanced from each other, and masked up and so on, and also have the rest of the fund participate online. So the plan is to try to get that on the books over the summer, convene so that we can appoint this one replacement while we're still working on bringing the other, recruiting another replacement. But at least to have someone who's someone who's local, who is an investment professional, who's willing to step up, looks good. So we'll once he's verified and so on, we'll bring that forward in a public forum.
That's great.
Any questions, issues? Yeah.
That's excellent news, Mary, because the foundation, the model we preferred was not to have an outside entity and be passive, what they call passive into our management of our investment funds. And so it's good to know that we have someone who would do kind of work that Eric and Dawn did and be actively part of the board.
Right.
Trish.
I just wanted to share with you there's some good news for the 21st Century Fund. I had a call from Jonathan Fairbanks a few weeks ago. As many of you know, his wife Louisa passed away some months ago, but she worked at the circulation desk at the old new library and loved all of the relationships and the connections that she made there. And so a group called the Seminarians, which is an American Decorative Arts study group that both she and Jonathan belong to, made a donation in her honor to the 21st Century Fund. So that was
That's
a
very nice.
substantial donation.
Substantial.
Oh, that's nice.
Substantial.
Well,
Nice.
$4,500, and their hope is that it would be for purchasers of programs that focus on American decorative arts. And I think it's a great tribute to Louisa, who worked for many years and is fondly remembered by so many.
Oh, that's great.
So
Nice.
Wonderful.
And look forward to sharing that with the board at the next meeting, and I'm sure we'll convey our appreciation and thanks formally. Anything else on the 21st Century Fund? No? The next item on the agenda is approval, acceptances, and expenditures. Everybody had an opportunity to review?
Yes.
Chair will accept a motion to approve and accept expenditures as set forth in the report prepared by the library director. Is there
So moved.
so moved by Trustee Masi Phelps, seconded by Trustee Thornton. Trustee Masi Phelps,
Aye.
Trustee Thornton,
Aye.
Trustee Van Au,
Aye.
Trustee Cole,
Aye.
and the chair also votes aye. The acceptances and expenditures are approved. The next item on the agenda is the calendar for the fiscal year 21 meetings of the Library Board of Trustees. And I know Trish sent out a proposed meeting schedule. Has everybody had an opportunity to review that?
I looked at it.
Yep.
Is that acceptable to the board?
Yes.
And I note that consistent with what we had decided, the meetings will be at 7 o'clock rather than 7:30.
Correct.
Was what the
And-
trustees. Go ahead, Trish.
And there's no meeting necessarily in July or August unless deemed necessary.
Right, and subject to the call of the chair. Okay, I don't know if we need a motion do we need a motion to approve that calendar? Or do we just, I don't think
I
so.
don't think so
I
because
don't think you need one.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so that will be the meeting schedule. As always, the meetings will be posted and open to the public.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda is new business. Is there any new business any trustee wishes to raise at this point in time?
I just had a question. Jessica and I were talking last week, and it was in our mind because we did it last year. Does Trish need her director's review done?
That,
Probably.
yeah, I'm
Well,
sure that,
I
I'm
didn't
sure
know
that's,
if it was
I was
annual.
thinking about the same thing, and I don't know where that is on anybody's priority, not
Right, yeah.
Trish's, but in
I
general.
guess if you haven't heard anything from Joan Murray. I
So
guess
I'm doing the staff ones now. We haven't finished everybody. It's just been hard to get those scheduled, but we're
Yeah.
almost all the way through. I think we're probably the only department that actually is,
doing them.
well, that's almost all the way through. I haven't heard anything from Chris about reviews for,
Okay.
Okay.
municipal staff, but, I'm happy to have you all sit down and whoever wants to.
Who would like to do a subcommittee as we did before? Is just,
Yeah.
I like just, for a few years, there was always the chair and
Mhm.
the chair, but I thought that was, not a good way to have the same people doing
Mhm.
the, so I'm perfectly, I think it's a good idea to have other trustees take turns doing that.
Okay.
And I know we had Wendy and Jessica last year. Maureen, would you like to be part of it this year?
I'm happy to be part of it. Sure.
Okay, and Wendy or Jess, do either one of you want to be part of it?
Why don't I do it? Because I can meet with Maureen and
Mm.
because Wendy is, not in Westwood.
Yep, okay.
Maybe we
So
can
Trish-
meet socially distanced.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
So Trish, why don't you work with Jessica and Maureen on that?
Will do. Okay.
Okay, and thank you both for volunteering. It's,
Mm.
I think it's very good to share
Yes.
Yeah,
some of this
that's good.
I
responsibility.
agree.
Yeah.
Be kind.
Yeah.
That's all I
Of course.
I
Of
don't,
course, we'll have to mention that we were not able to do the Father's Day stepping stones this year.
Yeah, really.
That's going to be in the review.
Mm.
Oh, wait,
as
question.
the only father here, I'm
Yeah.
terribly distressed by that.
Right.
Yes,
My
I know.
husband is just stressed. He
They're right
loves doing it.
outside. Yeah.
Yes, we're coming over and he'll do it then.
Yes,
On
Wendy.
top of that, I had a neighbor ask if the library was doing the summer reading yard sign.
Yes, they are. Yes,
They
yes,
are.
yes.
Yeah.
And they're being distributed in the garden, the children's garden. So we've already had, I would say, at least 20.
I've seen a few, I've seen
Already.
them.
Wow.
Already collected there. So yes, definitely we're doing them. We're doing the prize baskets, and all of the online registration is done virtually. And
Great.
I downloaded the app. It's awesome. It's very fun.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I do have a comment
Oh,
to
wait a minute. I
say.
gotta download it. Yeah.
I am thankful for Overdrive. It is.
I'm
It's amazing. I've actually
using
been mostly
Libby.
doing a lot.
Yeah.
I've been doing a
Yeah.
lot of the audiobooks, and I've been walking every day, so it's amazing.
And I'm thankful for Libby.
That's
Yeah,
overdrive.
I'm
That
using
is
Libby.
overdrive.
Yeah, okay.
Hoopla.
Okay.
Sorry, is
Hoopla.
there another app I need to get? Since this is being publicly streamed, it's a public service announcement, Tricia.
Well, so we have Hoopla, which
Yeah.
also has digital content
Yeah,
readily available. If it's in their collection, it's immediately accessible for audio and
Yeah.
ebooks and graphic novels and some video.
Mm.
Overdrive, we transitioned because there were so many holds on things and there were no other options. We went to,
Yeah.
in some cases, a cost per circ model, which is very similar to Hoopla. So as many people as wanted to read The Glass
Right.
Hotel, for example, were able to do so simultaneously.
great.
So when we can opt into those kinds of options, we're doing that now with Overdrive
Good.
because it makes it easier for people to not have to wait for things. So,
That's great.
And again, we've increased the number of borrowings that people can have. I think hopefully you get,
it's up to 10 in Hoopla. Yeah.
Yeah.
no, it was 20.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 20.
Maybe. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Believe me, I'm using close to 20. So. All right, any other new business?
No.
Hearing none, the chair will accept a motion to adjourn.
So
I make a
moved.
motion to adjourn.
Made by trustee Cole, seconded by trustee Thornton. Trustee Masi Phelps,
Aye.
trustee Thornton,
Aye.
Trustee Van Al,
Aye.
Trustee Cole,
Aye.
and the chair also votes aye. The meeting is adjourned. Again, Trish, we appreciate all that you've done in the past few months, particularly the effort and really well thought out opening plans. And it sounds like the town is actually going to use some of the work we've done as models.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
Thank you, Tricia.
nobody here,
Thank you, Tricia.
nobody here is surprised at the quality
Not
of
at all.
the
No.
work and the dedication.